Well, how do you do, everybody? It's me, Freak Ink Comics, downtown Skyler Brown, your local certified sexual health and wellness expert. It's my very first time recording a podcast. So, hi. Hope everyone is doing fantastic. And I'm just ready to share my expertise with the world. I'm ready to educate about erections and help you learn about labias. But before we even get into that, I would love for you to learn a little bit about me. I am 38 years old. I've been in Central Oregon for the better part of 30 years. I remember moving here back in the early 90s and being one of maybe five Black families in town. And even way back then, consent was something that I didn't really have afforded to me. So that is going to be the topic of my very first episode, consent. Now, you might be asking, what do you mean consent wasn't afforded to you as a young person? Well, think about family functions when you are asked to go give your uncle a hug, go give your auntie a hug, go kiss your grandpa. Well, that's really taking away physical autonomy from somebody, even at that young of an age. What if I didn't feel like giving him a hug, but the adult in my life saying you must go do that thing? Well, that's why consent is so very important. I'm going to be referring to some information provided by RAINN, that's RAINN. That stands for the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. It's one of the largest anti sexual abuse networks established back in 1994. They're tied directly in conjunction with the Sexual Assault Hotline. If you feel as though you've seen something or you yourself are experiencing sexual assault or harassment in some form of a way, there is help for you. That phone number is 1 800 656 HOPE. That is 1 800 656 HOPE. Now, specifically about consent, I'd love to touch base on certain things. The fact that it requires you to be of legal age, it requires you to be sober and alert, and also not under coercion or threat. So let's elaborate. Let's delve into that just a tiny bit. Of legal age. Clearly, that must be 18 years or older, depending on your jurisdiction. Preferably, please ask consent of adults, but it also comes into play with standard interactions with children as well. May I give you a hug today? Can I give you a kiss? I even do that with my niece and nephew. If they don't feel like giving Auntie Skyler a hug, then so be it. No is a complete answer. Now, when it comes to being sober and alert, of course, who's not going to go out to the bar or have a couple of drinks? But if you see that someone is so hammered that their friend is holding their hair back, and then all of a sudden this guy is ushering them into their car, very clearly that person does not have the ability or the wherewithal to provide consent for that situation. If you see something, definitely say something, especially if you feel as though consent is not being granted or given to someone that you're bearing witness to. And then not being under coercion or threat. So, quite literally, that if you feel as though someone is forcing themselves upon you, if you feel like you cannot voice your opinion, if you are not able to say no and it be receptive, there are ways to combat that. There's support, there's help. Definitely keep in mind the sexual assault hotline. But also, if you feel as though someone is being human trafficked or being forced against their will to perform certain acts, there is support for that as well. And that phone number is 1 888 373 7888. Make sure you keep those phone numbers in your repertoire, fellow freaks. Now, in this context, consent is a mutual agreement to engage in sexual activity, and it should always be clear, voluntary, and communicated without any form of pressure or manipulation. Just quite literally that. If you feel like someone is making you, say, for example, do things in the butt, and you don't want to do things in the butt, you could say no. That's allowed. Or I see a lot of situations where consent was given in the past, but they don't want to do it anymore. Consent is a revocable thing at any point in time, even midway during the act. So say, yeah, I do want to try this thing. If it feels uncomfortable or wrong or unsafe, you are able to revoke that at any point in time. And it's up to your partner to be aware or alert of your signals if you're not comfortable giving verbal consent, if you freeze, if you lock up, if you just stop talking, your partner needs to also be aware of that. Now, another important thing to consider is marriages. I mean, of course, consent must be granted if you're married to somebody for 15 years. Well, not necessarily. General check-ins are required as well. Consent in living, working motion is definitely continuous checking in with your partner to see if they're still groovy with what you're putting down. Baby, is it still okay if I put my hand on your booty? Oh, your hip hurts today? Okay, well then no worries. But open communication is what keeps relationships alive. That's what keeps communication healthy and happy between each other and helps prevent misunderstandings completely. Now, like I was saying, it's not a one time thing, it's a continuous check in. Is this okay? Are you okay? May I please? Thank you. I mean, excuse me are two nice words too, but we're getting into etiquette now. Now, one thing to consider is enthusiastic consent, not just a, "Eh, do you mind if I suck on your ear? Enthusiastic consent being, oh, hell yeah. Yes, please and thank you. Are you not? Was that a question? There's also previously agreed upon consent. So, say, for example, someone says, I want for you to wake me up with sex. Someone who's asleep is not able to give express consent out loud. But if it's a previously agreed upon thing with your person, that could fall as a line of consent as well. Say, for example, you're into more fetish style things, more hardcore stuff. Say, one time you said it was totally fine to smack me in the face. Just do it. Smack me in the face once. That is not a continued thing unless it is continued to be spoken upon. If it was a one time thing, great. If the next time you just feel like, oh, she liked it before, touch base with your person. Say, hey, is it still okay if I give you a tap? If they're like, no, I didn't like how that felt, it felt icky, respect that. Now, what consent is not is ignoring a no. Consent is not assuming consent based upon clothing. So, say, for example, I'm in some pretty cute stuff today, looking lovely. But my clothing does not imply that I want to be touched. It does not imply that I want to be spoken to in a sexual manner unless I am approaching you in that manner. So it is also not pressuring someone into saying yes or guilt tripping them. So, hey, come on, really, you're in my house. You said that you wanted to come kick it at my place, and now you're here and you're not gonna. That's pressuring somebody, and that's not putting them in a place to give proper consent for a situation. It's also not engaging with someone who is too intoxicated to make informed decisions for themselves. Like I was saying, baby girl, it's her birthday. She's having a blast. She's tearing it up on the town. But when she's 6 tequilas deep, is she really able to convey to whoever she's with, yeah, take me home. Yeah, take me to the hot tub. No, it is up to the people that are around that person to then help advocate for them just ever so slightly. Even primarily, like if she went out with friends and there's a designated person, or even if there's a bartender seeing this is going on, it is up to sober parties to pay attention and help advocate for people who are unable to make those decisions. And taking silence or a lack of resistance as agreement. Some people have deep seated mental and physical traumas revolving around sex and consent in general. So, someone freezing up does not mean it's okay to proceed. That's when it's time for you to touch base with whoever you're engaged with. Are you okay? Is this okay? And if they just don't say yes or no, don't take that as a, yeah, that means green light, go. It rhymes, so it's true. Genuinely speaking, though, if someone's not conveying yay or nay, assume it's a no and then progress forward when they feel in a comfortable place to be able to speak about that with you. Maybe in the light of day. Maybe if you haven't had a few shots of tequila, definitely get consent before you progress forward and don't assume that silence means yes. Another important thing to consider is that involuntary bodily reactions, such as being aroused, having an orgasm, those are involuntary body reactions. So even if you're not able to provide consent or say no to something, it's not your fault if someone took it upon themselves to force upon yourself and all of a sudden you became aroused from it. That is not your fault. It's an involuntary bodily reaction. So say someone was taken advantage of or raped. If you had an orgasm, it's an involuntary body reaction. It didn't mean that you liked it. It didn't mean that you gave permission for it. And it's also something to keep in mind that if they seemed like they enjoyed it, so they must have said it's okay. Not the case. Express enthusiastic consent is always something to be sought after. That is mandatory. Not only that, but setting boundaries, having an open communication with your partners. It may feel uncomfy or funky at first, but it's so relevant and so necessary, especially nowadays. I mean, with things being presented to us online, the way that sexuality can be portrayed as raunchy, gung ho, like pound sessions. But do you assume that these people just go into a room and do the thing? Absolutely not. People in the adult industry tend to have in length conversations before any type of intimacy even begins. So, conversations over the phone, in person, in the light of day, fully sober, talking about what is and is not all right. Is it okay if I wrap you in a shibari setup that is electrostatic? Yeah, sure. Is it okay if I pull your hair this time? Actually, no, I'm wearing a wig. Like, there's certain things to consider, even in the adult industry. All that stuff that you see in videos online has 9 times out of 10, if it's professionally done, been approved upon. So, another thing about why consent just matters in general. It builds a deeper connection with you and your partner, or partners if you chose to be multifaceted and if you chose to have many different sides of your gem, so to speak. It is up to you and up to us as humans and as adults to be able to convey what we were not able to as children, especially. Yes, you have permission to kiss me on my neck. No, you don't have permission to bite me. I'm scared of my blood vessels bursting. But then also being able to be receptive of a no, being able to be receptive of having a continued conversation so that healthy, established mindsets can be present in your relationship. It's so fundamental. But then also learning together if there is something that terrifies them, but they're curious, possibly going into therapy together into couple situations to sort out the ins and outs, maybe having a third party mediator be able to add their 2 cents. Or someone like myself, a certified sexual health and wellness expert. Not only have I experienced my own life moments of consent, non consent, all the way up into my 38 years of life, but I've also received education and training on just what consent even is, what things turn other people on. And if, I'm not here to yuck any yums. I just want everybody to be safe and have fun. With that, I just want to remind you that if you did not consent to something, again, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, if something happened to you, say you were in the middle of having penetrative sex vaginally and then someone put it in your butt without permission, then just kept going. If you felt like that offended you, if you felt like it harmed you in some way, shape, or form, your experience is valid. What you experienced is your own. But there are people out here to help you process this information, how to set appropriate boundaries moving forward. And again, that phone number for the sexual assault hotline for support is 1 800 656 HOPE. That's 1 800 656 4673. With that, I would love to open up the doorway for further communication with everybody. I know I wanted to be able to receive phone calls this time around, but me and technology, it's either it functions 100% or it dies before my very eyes. So, what I would love to do is open up the communication with the community. If you wanted to message directly, you can message on the We Black Radio application. You can message through weblackradio.org. You can also call the phone line when we are going live next time at 541 668 3743. That's the We Black Radio call in line. But I'm Skyler. I have so much more I want to share with everybody. But consent is such a deep and multi channeled intricacy of knowledge and communication between yourself and your partner or plural partners that there's so much that I can only cover within a short amount of time. I could delve deeper, but I would love to have you bounce back information with me. Maybe communicate, talk with me about it, call in with your own experiences so that we can continue this communication. Until next time, I feel like this is a wonderful place to sign off. Again, I'm downtown Skyler Brown, Free Kink Comics, your local certified sexual health and wellness expert. And you have been listening to We Black Radio, the only Black-owned Central Oregon radio station. We appreciate your time, and I'll see you next time, fellow freaks. Take care.